Why does gaming not feel the same anymore? Do people grow out of games as they get older? Are games becoming less interesting due to corporate greed? I had this problem before COVID where I was feeling that games just weren't the same anymore. They weren't fun anymore. But then it went away as I started playing new games with my friends during the lockdown because what else were we going to do? My love for gaming then started to fade again during college. And yes, even while making this podcast, I admit I started to fall out of a desire to game. And yet now I've reached a point where I do like to play games again for leisure. And I treat it as any other hobby, right? I play it for a little to relax, but I don't do too much because I actually feel gross or lazy if I do that. I now balance it with school, sports, work, and other hobbies. And I think I've found a good point with gaming in my life. But why do so many people grow out of games or feel that they just aren't the same anymore? Because I know I'm not the only one who thinks this. Now, does it have to do with a lack of friends to play with? Are the games just really not the same? Now, I find that playing games with friends is always fun, but what I'm really wondering is what happened to that childlike love of games with stories and adventure that's kind of disappeared for most of us lifelong gamers. And this is what's been going through my head for a while now. But until now, I've never really been able to articulate my thoughts on this because it's not a very simple thing to describe. And I know gaming saved me from many mental struggles during the pandemic, yet it seems to fade as a hobby for even me. You know, making this podcast telling people that gaming is good for social benefits and for emotional well-being when done in moderation, and yet it's still faded, right? And so I'm going to try to answer all of these questions that I brought up today. And hopefully we can find somewhere to land with why we seem to grow out of gaming and how, for those who want to, we can bring back the joy of gaming in a balanced and healthy way. Now, let's start with the obvious. So, as we grow older, we change. Of course, right? Everyone knows that. This ties into the idea of actually not trying to recreate memories. It's the same sort of concept. In this new era, our priorities in life are different. Our brains are more developed, probably, and we simply just have different cares in our world. We're probably better at emotional regulation, and we experience less of the intense immersion we used to have in games just because we have a little more self-control. And back when we would play games all summer long, we really had no responsibilities, no deadlines, and no demands. So of course we were ecstatic to be on the game all day, right? There was a snow day, I'm getting on the game. Or there's a summer day, you have nothing to do, I'm gonna get on the game and play with my friends, because what else would I do? But fast forward to when you get older, now when you have free time, this is what you start thinking about. You have school to study for, a career to prepare for, relationships to manage, and bills to pay, right? So now many people get on the game for a short bit when they have free time, but then they have this itch that they need to be doing something productive and not gaming. And then just like that, the game goes off. And this is actually ironic considering that most of us as adults now also spend hours scrolling Reels or TikTok, which is an even bigger waste of time than gaming in my opinion. But whenever we try to dissociate, we always feel that looming sense of responsibility. We feel that itch that we just gotta do something instead. And we get anxious, and then eventually we just turn off the game and work on something else instead. And for a while, this was a big reason I could never play video games while at school. I was just worrying about too many other things. I just thought that there's too many other priorities that I need to take care of first. And yet at the same time, I would waste hours scrolling, right? So the real problem is not the game, but the thought of gaming, right? So another big reason is the lack of friends to play with. And this is not a lack of friends in general, but a lack of friends who are willing to take time out of their busy schedule as well to game with you. And it's tough, I'll admit. I have few of these friends at school, but I'm actively trying to grow that number to try and get more people to return to gaming. And this explains why the COVID gaming experience was so peak. Everyone had to be online because there was literally nothing else to do, right? You could probably watch movies or scroll TikTok. Maybe movies are they're pretty good uses of time, but TikTok not so much. But this meant that people had friends who were willing to get online and play games basically all day long because no one else was doing anything, right? And that also explains why in college this feeling faded. Most people start going out and finding things to do outside, which are 100% important, don't get me wrong. But gaming just simply fell out of that view for most people, And that's sort of a natural thing that happens to many people. There's also an aspect of this issue that comes from the video game side, right? And this is so maybe less influential than people might think, but many corporations or developers have been releasing overhyped games that end up falling flat, right? Or they just release an early access version just so they can release it early. Then they claim they're going to update it so that you still buy it, but then they never update it. And one of the examples of this is Slime Rancher 2, which was a huge disappointment, because we all thought it was going to be just as good as the first one. Then they release an early access and they don't update it, and then there's basically no game to play. And this type of practice, unfortunately, slowly kills the love for gaming in many people. And in my opinion, this is largely because of, to put it nicely, greed by companies. But it's not always the company's fault. They do have high budgets and high objectives to achieve for sales, so they prioritize trying to play it safe. They're going to make what they know will sell, at least a decent amount. But this can unintentionally lead to more boring games. And this is why indie games are actually becoming so much more popular, right? Many of the most popular games of all time on Steam are indie games, and the most popular ones recently are these friend slop indie games, but they're actually fun and creative, right? These developers take risks because they have nothing else to lose, and that really shows in the creativity of these games. They're literally making these games for fun because they don't care. They would do this even if they didn't sell, right? This is a passion. Now, those are the issues with gaming and why people tend to fall out of it. But now I want to transition into what we should do about that, if anything at all. If we grow out of games, does that mean our time is up for playing video games, right? Should we just give in to the changing life and just stop playing? And this requires a lot of introspection, right? I can't make that decision for you. You got to think, why did you stop playing games? Do they feel boring when you go back to play? Do they feel fun, but you don't have time? Do you just have other things you'd rather do? If you ask yourself these questions and decide that you want gaming to be part of your life, then there are definitely ways to bring back your love for it. So, as it turns out, it actually matters a lot what games you're playing. The indie game industry is actually dominating the video game market, so I would recommend starting there because that's where everyone else is going. These games tend to be the most engaging amongst modern games, and they also tend to have a high capability for playing with friends, which is another important piece. If you want to bring back that joy of gaming again, you will need to try and find people to game with. And sometimes it just means starting with one person, but with just one person, it can grow into more. That's how all of my gaming groups have started. But something I found that's a little bit niche is a study that found that playing Mario and Yoshi type platformer games can actually bring back your childhood love you used to feel for games, right? So this is kind of arguing that the game you're playing is really what matters for bringing back that, childhood love for video games. And so they found that literally playing Mario or Yoshi games just made people happier. It made them burn out less, and it made them experience that wonder that you experienced as a kid again. And I think this is a pretty powerful study. It seems like it's not necessarily your fault if games are less fun. It actually might be the game's fault. So it seems like the right types of games can actually bring back that love for gaming you had. You just have to find the right one out there. And maybe that right one is Mario or Yoshi games. I know it is for me because I actually do still play those games from time to time. But maybe it's something else. And it doesn't hurt to try and find it. But in general, it is important to acknowledge that we are not the same as when we were kids, and that means some games will just not be the same. And that's okay. That's a normal part of progressing in your life while playing video games, right? Many of us have been playing for so long that the games we used to play are kind of dead or just changed so much that they're not even recognizable, right? We're not meant to play all games forever, right? And this is something that's hard, when you're an avid gamer, you think, I want to invest in this game so that in 20 years I can see all my progress. But sometimes the game just won't be there in 20 years, right? It'll be something else. But what you cherish are the experiences and the times you spent with your friends and how it made you feel. And these memories that it creates, those are what matters, not the level you reach in the game or the rank you reach in the game or how many wins you can get so that you can look back, right? Because eventually the servers might just run out, the game might get deleted, it might all be gone, and all you're left with is memories. And so the most important part is that you cherish the experience and memories, right? We should part from certain games when we truly don't enjoy them anymore, even with friends, or if they leave us with unhealthy habits. But don't let the joy of gaming fall away from you if it's not what you truly wanted for yourself. Allow it to find a balance in your life and treat it like any other hobby where you do it in moderation, and don't let yourself do it so much to where you feel gross and lazy. And as always, stay mindful, and I'll see you all in the next episode.